To his North Vietnamese captors, American POW James Stockdale was a prize, someone to be paraded on camera for propaganda. But as they got the cameras ready, Stockdale did something they never ever expected. He grabbed a heavy wooden stool and, with everything he had, smashed his own face to a bloody, unrecognizable mess. This one, unbelievable act of defiance sent a message so powerful it stunned his captors and changed everything about his imprisonment. This is the story of the man who tortured himself to defeat his enemy. On September 9th, 1965, Commander James Stockdale's A-4 Skyhawk jet was blasted by anti-aircraft fire over North Vietnam. He had to eject. As he parachuted down into a small village, his ordeal began. He landed with a broken back, a shattered leg, only to be brutally beaten by villagers before being handed over to the military. From there, he was taken to Olo Prison, a place American POWs would come to know and fear as the Anio Hilton. As the highest ranking naval officer captured, Stockdale was immediately a person of interest for his captors. They threw him into isolation, thinking they could break him and use him as a symbol of American defeat. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Sitting in a dark 3 by 9 foot concrete cell, Stockdale drew on the stoic philosophy he'd studied at Stanford University and made a choice. He wouldn't be a victim. He'd be a leader. His war wasn't over. It had just moved to a new, more brutal battlefield. For the next 7.5 years, Stockdale endured unimaginable hardships. He spent 4 years in solitary confinement and 2 years locked in heavy leg irons. He was tortured more than 15 times. His captors used cruel methods like the rope trick, which involved twisting his arms behind his back until his shoulders popped out of their sockets, all to get him to confess to war crimes. But even in isolation and pain, Stockdale took command. He knew that for any of them to survive, they have to be a team, not just a bunch of individuals. Using a brilliant and simple method called the Smitty-Harris tap code, the prisoners started talking to each other. The code, created by an Air Force pilot, used a 5 by 5 grid where a pattern of taps stood for each letter. Soon the walls of the Anio Hilton were alive with secret conversations. Stockdale used this network to set up a chain of command and enforce a strict code of conduct. Resist interrogation. Refuse to be used for propaganda. And never, ever accept an early release. The message was clear. They would all return with honor, or they wouldn't return at all. That constant tapping became their lifeline, a quiet symbol of their unbreakable spirit. In the summer of 1969, the prison authorities decided to make an example of Stockdale. Their plan was to parade him in front of foreign journalists, show him off as a broken man, and crush the morale of the other POWs. Locked away in a bath stall, Stockdale knew he couldn't let that happen. He had to send a message so extreme, so shocking, that they would never try to use him again. He started by slashing his own scalp with a razor. When his captors tried to just put a hat on him and carry on, he took it a step further. He grabbed a heavy wooden stool and, with every last bit of his strength, beat his own face until it was a swollen, unrecognizable mask of blood and bruises. When the guards found him, they were just stunned. The man they wanted to use as a symbol of their power had shown them he'd rather die than submit. The effect was immediate. Convinced he was a man who absolutely could not be broken, his captors canceled the press event. More importantly, the campaign of extreme torture against him and the other prisoners started to ease up. His horrifying act of self-sacrifice had actually worked. He showed them he was willing to pay the ultimate price for defiance, and that was a language that they finally understood. On another occasion, when he learned that some of his fellow prisoners had died from torture, he slashed his wrist with broken glass, again forcing the guards to back down. James Stockdale was finally released on February 12th of 1973 as part of Operation Homecoming. For his unbelievable leadership and courage, President Gerald Ford presented him with the Medal of Honor in 1976. The official citation says he earned the everlasting gratitude of his fellow prisoners and of his country. His injuries meant he could never fly again, and he eventually retired as a vice admiral. James Stockdale's story is an incredible testament to the power of human will. He proved that even when everything is taken from you, you can still be the master of your own mind. By embracing pain and sacrificing his own body, he didn't just save himself from being a propaganda puppet, he protected his fellow soldiers and became the leader they desperately needed. If you found this story of incredible defiance inspiring, be sure to check out my next video on another soldier who refused to back down against impossible odds. And thank you all for watching.